The system is well beyond capacity and remains at the breaking point.
Compared to last year, the number of families apprehended at the border has gone up 335%.
What are we on, the 5th caravan? What do we need, a 6th caravan, 7th caravan, an endless caravan before we say it's an emergency?
Minnesota Congresswoman Omar facing more backlash after yet another anti-Semitic comment.
At what point do you say to Congresswoman Omar, look, you're not on this committee anymore?
No, I'm not close to it.
Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez facing allegations that they claim she and her chief of staff violated campaign finance laws.
There is no violation, so there's no violation.
Today, Christians all around the world will celebrate Ash Wednesday. It marks the beginning of Lent. That's a 6-week period of fasting and repentance leading up to Easter.
Girl, yesterday?
Is that what it is? Is that Fat Tuesday?
Yeah, today's the first day of Lent.
The kickoff? Yeah, today's Lent, Ash Wednesday today. You got to go to church and get your ashes.
Ah,
and
true.
Try to give something up that you can fast, and when you give that up and you really miss it, then you pray to God and remember him.
The whole thing, the act of giving something up, replicates the sacrifice that Jesus had during his 40 days out in the desert.
Right.
We gave up Brian Kilmeade for one day, and in his place we got...
And you're going to miss him after one day. So, thanks for having me.
Glad to have you.
We got a busy story, and the lead story is right there. We've hit the breaking point, Pete.
That's right. The crisis at our southern border reaching a breaking point, as Steve said.
Brand new numbers from the Border Patrol show a record surge of illegal immigration into the United States, with more than 76,000 people trying to cross into our country just last month.
Griff Jenkins joins us live from Washington, D.C. to break it all down for us. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, these numbers are just staggering. This is how CBP's Commissioner Kevin McAleenan put it yesterday.
Based on the experiences of men and women on the front line, this is clearly both a border security and humanitarian crisis. The system is well beyond capacity and remains at a breaking point.
Now look at these numbers, 300% increase in the number of family units apprehended this year compared to last year, 136,150 in the first 5 months so far of fiscal year 19, exceeding the total number in all of fiscal year 18 at 107,212. In those large groups we've seen, I've certainly seen a lot of them, there have been 70 large groups of 100 or more individuals totaling more than 12,000 apprehensions compared to 13 groups last year, only 2 in 2017. And there's more on the way. Mexico's Interior Secretary, Olga Cordero, who was in Washington last week, I went and listened to her speak. She warned that they're on pace to deal with more than 700,000 Central American migrants this year, in large part because of the caravans. But as a vote in the Senate nears, with enough Republican defections to block the president's national emergency declaration, Democrats continue opposing the use of military funds being used for the border.
Devoting OCO funds to a useless, reckless vanity project at the border would betray our national security and our commitment to our men and women in uniform.
That vote is expected next week. We'll see if Nielsen's testimony today changes any minds. She appears before the House Homeland Security Committee at 10, guys.
All right, we'll be watching for that, Griff. You know what's unusual about this is we're talking about the month of February. February is the coldest month of the year, and historically the numbers have been down. But for them to be so high right now, you know, when you look at this and the headline, the breaking point, this essentially makes the president's point. Look, there is a crisis, there is a national emergency, a humanitarian crisis at our southern border.
Look at the numbers. Fiscal year 2019, 431,131 apprehensions. Compare that to 2018, 396,579. That's a 116% increase.
Remember, these are just apprehensions.
Right.
And most people want to be apprehended, by the way, right now.
So
they come in groups, family units, because family units are easier to seek asylum. They get a quick processing. They're told to have a day in court, and then they're released. And every Coyote and Caravan member knows that's the policy.
Right.
It's a bigger magnet now than it's ever been because we don't have a wall yet. And that's why the declaration of an emergency is so important. You can't change this crisis. They're saying they're at a breaking point. They also say, Steve, this spring they're going to see the numbers go up even further. To your point, weather improves, the wall still isn't built, more people are going to want to try to make it across while they still can. This is a crisis.
With 76,000 in February, that's a 100% increase year over year. That is 3 times the number from February of 2017. Jim Jordan says, okay, we've seen so much going on down there. Isn't this proof that the president's right? Watch.
What are we on, the 5th caravan? What do we need, a 6th caravan, 7th caravan, an endless caravan before we say it's an emergency? The president is right. And some of the Republicans who are opposing the president, the same ones who last year during the Congress didn't want to get it done when we had the majority in both the House and the Senate. So this is something that's going to, looks like the Senate's going to vote to overrule the president's order.
Think about that number, 76,000 last month. That's in 1 month alone. I mean, think about like a stadium size of individuals. I think that's like Notre Dame fills 80,000 individuals. So 76,000 people last month alone, undocumented immigrants. Now, after the deaths of those 2 children, they've stepped up medical screenings on the border. Their interview process is becoming more rigorous, and they're also building a new processing center in El Paso, Texas.
But migrants and coyotes have also upped the amount of family units and unaccompanied minors because they know our system is favorable toward them, will treat them well, and ultimately there's less likelihood of deportation.
All right, so that's what's going on our southern border. Another big story is the Democrats in the House are split because they've got a problem on their hands. They don't know exactly how to respond to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who it was just last week she said that Israel supporters have an allegiance to a foreign country. You know, already she's had to apologize twice this year for tweets with anti-Semitic overtones. And the House, we believed, was going to be voting on an anti-Semitic resolution indirectly condemning her, but now they're split over what should be in it because apparently because they felt that because it would indirectly condemn her, yet it fails to denounce the problems she has faced as a Muslim. So 2 aides say language is going to be added to add anti-Muslim bias to it, or it could be just anti-religious bias.
Yeah, well, James Clyburn said this is why we're delaying it. We're still working on this resolution. They were supposed to vote today. They're going to vote tomorrow.
Maybe.
They think tomorrow, yeah. And he says it should emphasize anti-hate messages, not just anti-Semitic.
Yeah, the far left, her buddies, AOC and others are coming alongside saying, you shouldn't do this to Ilhan Omar. Representative Eliot Engel, though, he chairs the House Foreign Affairs Committee. He's been pretty forceful in condemning the comments of Ilhan Omar. Listen, this is part of what he said on Friday. He said it's unacceptable and deeply offensive to call into question the loyalty of fellow American citizens because of their political views. Worse, Representative Omar's comments leveled that charge by invoking a vile anti-Semitic slur. So her fellow Democrats still believe this is a problem.
Well,
the question is how many.
But what's interesting is that's what he said on Friday. But yesterday, a little change of tune. Listen to this, what he said yesterday.
At what point do you say to her, Congresswoman Omar, look, you're not on this committee anymore. You strip her of your seat. Are you close to that or at that point?
No, I'm not close to it. First of all, it's not up to me. This is done by the leadership. I don't know that would do anything except exacerbate the situation even more. I'm looking to get rid of anti-Semitism, not looking to punish anybody.
Not looking to punish anybody. Remember what the Republicans did to Steve King of Iowa when he had those comments about white supremacy. They took him off of all the committees. Nancy Pelosi reportedly spoke to Congresswoman Omar over the weekend. It has not been revealed what that conversation was like, but you can imagine. And apparently House leadership says she will, that woman right there, will keep her committee assignments.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro, who's often a voice of clarity at moments like this, had a unique take. Here's Ben.
That Ilhan Omar is an anti-Semite, that she has repeatedly said anti-Semitic things over and over and over again. She has apologized no less than 3 times in the last 6 weeks for anti-Semitic remarks because she is, in fact, saying things that reflect her underlying worldview, which is that the Jews are a nefarious force in the world and particularly in United States politics with regard to support for Israel.
That's why they were questioning whether or not she should be on the Foreign Relations Committee. And then Congressman Lee Zeldin, he's taken a hard stance against her, saying that if leadership is not going to do their job, he wants leadership to kick her off the committee. But he said if they don't, she'll eventually kick herself off.
Think about the question. You point at Jews or supporter of Israel and say, we think you have a split allegiance. That would be like me sitting on this couch and being like, Ilhan Omar, because you're Muslim, you must have a split allegiance.
Right.
But really, I mean, that is the equal side of the same argument. She to be on the Foreign Affairs Committee and not be censured by her own caucus, a recognition that these are vile comments, is them walking back something. They got a problem in their own caucus.
They do indeed. Let's see how they handle it. Meanwhile, speaking of censored, Jack Dorsey, the guy who runs Twitter, he was on the Joe Rogan podcast yesterday, and he was asked by one of the guests, Tim Pool, a journalist and a guest, why high-profile figures have been suspended in relation to that, learn the code thing, where on Twitter, something that people started to say to coal miners, hey, learn the code because your jobs are going away. Learn how to do that. He admits that Twitter banned conservatives just a little too fast on the gun. Listen to this.
We would fully admit we probably were way too aggressive when we first saw this as well, and made mistakes.
He said we were too aggressive and we made mistakes. Listen, I think it's wonderful that he's admitting that. Now, whether or not they fix the problems, we'll have to see.
Yeah, they're still way too aggressive, by the way, especially if you're talking about things related to radical Islam or Sharia. They come after you with the fire of 1,000 suns. Twitter's still doing it. Other social media giants are still doing it because the politically correct sort of far left lumps on top of it. If they can correct it, I just don't know how they do at this point.
Well, I think it was Dorsey who said, look, we're out in California. Pretty much everybody who works for us is a super progressive. Yep. So that's who's looking at these things, trying to decide whether or not to censor them.
That's a great point.
All right, let us know what you think. Friends at foxnews.com. In the meantime, we're going to hand it over to Jill. You have some headlines.
That's right. Good morning. And let's get you caught up on the story that we've been following out of Alabama. The 5-year Department veteran shot above his bulletproof vest in Midland, Texas.
We're hurting to the core right now. This is the first officer in well over 30 years that the Midland Police Department has lost, and so it's shaken us to the core.
First responders saluting Officer Heidelberg in a police procession. The man who shot him is charged with manslaughter. Protests erupt during a city council meeting in the wake of the latest Stephon Clark decision. One protester jumping on top of a podium. Earlier, California's Attorney General cleared 2 officers of any wrongdoing in last year's deadly shooting. That decision coming just days after the DA did the same. Both say Clark stood in a shooting position with his cell phone before police shot and killed him. Let's look at your headlines. Send it back to you.
All right. Thank you,
Julie. Appreciate it.
As the abortion debate rages across the country, a groundbreaking ruling, a judge just sided with a fetus.
You're going to want to hear that. And it was his dying wish to talk to President Trump. And you know what? It just happened.
How are you doing? How's it going, Jay?
It's going, you know what I mean?
But you're a champ. You're going to fight that, right? You just fight that?
It's what the Irish do, right?
Welcome back. Well, today, House Democrats expected to grill DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen about the administration's immigration agenda. This, as alarming new CBP numbers paint a grim picture about the crisis at our border. In this fiscal year alone, so far, there's been more than a 300% increase of family units apprehended at the border compared to the same time last year. In total, CBP has arrested more than 268,000 illegals at our southwest border since October. And 76,000 people tried crossing just last month, up from 36,000 in February of last year. That number more than doubled. Robert Perez is the Deputy Commissioner of the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol. He joins me now to break it all down. Robert, thank you very much for being here. That last number especially, explain that. Why are numbers double this February that they were last?
Well, good morning, Pete. Thanks for having me. I want to really explain a little bit about what that 76,000 apprehension numbers for the month of February really represent. So, as you mentioned, an unprecedented number. It is and has been 12 years since we've seen a month of February that totaled that high. So it is unquestionably a greater number in total in sum than anything we've ever seen. However, important to note that it's through this fiscal year alone, more than half of the entirety of the populations of migrants coming and being apprehended along our border are made up of family units. Nearly 2/3 are family units and unaccompanied children, and more than 70% are originating from Central American and countries other than Mexico. And what that, in sum, does to us at the border, it is overwhelming an immigration system that was never designed to deal with that type of population, deal with that types of numbers. It is providing the smuggling organizations of both human smugglers and narcotics traffickers an ability to reap unprecedented numbers and monies and profits, and at the same time putting these very vulnerable populations at terrible risk, many of which present and are apprehended or met by our Border Patrol agents and CBP officers in failing health.
Robert, we only have another minute, but why is this happening? Why are more coming?
A couple things. We need to be modernize our legal framework, Pete. We have a legal framework that we've been speaking to for nearly 2 years that absolutely needs to be brought into the 21st century. We need to be able to keep families together through expedited asylum hearings. We need to be able to treat unaccompanied children from any part of the globe as we do those from Mexico and Canada. And we need to modernize, bring to the 21st century our asylum laws as well.
Yeah, and a wall wouldn't hurt either in certain places
resourcing
where it doesn't exist.
resourcing our infrastructure and our agents on the front line with technology and barriers is absolutely critical.
Absolutely. Robert Perez, thank you very much for your service and your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Pete.
You got
appreciate it.
All right, well, sweet victory for this Christian baker. The state dropping its case against him for refusing to make a cake because of his religious beliefs. He joins us live coming up next.
This is a Fox News alert. National Security Advisor John Bolton now warning of consequences if North Korea does not de-nuke.
I think President Trump has been very clear they're not going to get relief from the crushing economic sanctions that have been imposed on them, and we'll look at ramping those sanctions up.
Because new satellite images appear to show the regime rebuilding a nuclear launch site. Days after President Trump's failed summit with Kim Jong-un. He walked away, the president did. And today, President Trump will meet with a former Yemeni hostage in the Oval Office. Texas oil worker Danny Burke spent 18 months held captive by rebel fighters in the Arab country. He was recently reunited with his family, and now he's going to go meet the president. Ainsley?
Okay, thanks, Steve. Another big victory for the Christian cake shop owner who refused to bake a cake because of his religious beliefs. The state of Colorado and Jack Phillips have agreed to end all litigation. This is the second time the baker claimed he faced anti-religious hostility, most recently for refusing to bake a gender transition cake. And back in 2012, he would not make a wedding cake for a same-sex couple. Jack Phillips is the owner of Masterpiece Cake Shop, and he joins us now with more on this story, along with Kristen Wagner, an attorney at Alliance Defending Freedom. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
Jack, 2 days ago, you're sitting down to write your deposition, and you found out the news that they have dropped their suit.
Yeah.
What went through your mind? This has been 6.5 years in the making.
6.5 years. That was a tremendous win. It was a great victory for us because for over 25 years at Masterpiece Cake Shop, we've served everybody who comes in our store. We just don't create every message that people ask us to create.
So how are you going to celebrate? You're going to bake a cake for your party?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
Kristen, what does this mean for you?
Well, it's a great win, 6.5-year hard-fought battle, trip to the Supreme Court. But I think we do need to remember there are government officials in other states that are continuing to prosecute filmmakers, printers, graphic design artists, hand painters, and they're crushing these people, threatening them even with jail time if they don't express a message that violates their convictions. So no matter what side of the debate you're on, we need to make sure that no American can be forced to express a message that violates their core convictions.
So, Jack, the deal was Colorado said if you're going to sue us, we're suing you, and you said, well, I'm going to sue you for hostility. And they said if you drop your case, we'll drop our case, right?
Yeah, they were so openly hostile to us that we were forced to. We had no other choice.
What did they do that was so hostile?
They compared my faith to slave owners and Holocaust. In this case, they called me a hater, just multiple things. And
what's amazing about it is the Supreme Court in the first case rebuked those statements, sternly condemned the commission. The commission then went out and again embraced those statements and said we should be more transparent about this religious hostility.
This is the Civil Rights Commission in Colorado. Are you going to stay in Colorado? What's your message to them today?
Yeah, I plan on staying in Colorado the rest of my life. I've been there all my life. I love where I live and I love what I do. And now, after 7 years almost, I can get back to doing
the work that I love.
All right, so Kristen, what does this mean? You alluded to how this is going to affect other cases in other states. How will this affect them? Will all of those lawsuits be dropped?
I think it sends a very strong message to government officials. They need to stop targeting people of faith because of their beliefs on very important issues. And in NIFLA, a Supreme Court decision this last term, the court again said governments can't force people to say things that violate their convictions. So we're optimistic that constitutional rights will be protected no matter which way the political winds shift.
Jack, you've been under fire for 6.5 years. A lot of people don't agree with you. Would you do it all over again?
We would do it all over again because it's the right thing to do. You have to stand for your convictions, and every American should be free to live and work according to their conscience without fear of punishment from the government.
Jack, Kristen, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. As the abortion debate rages across the country, a groundbreaking ruling, a judge just sided with an unborn baby. And Hillary Clinton channels the movie Mean Girls. Watch this.
She'd be like, "Why didn't you call me back?" And I'd be like, "Why are you so obsessed with me?"
Tommy Lahren on the fight Hillary Clinton just picked with our president.
Connecticut, who has cystic fibrosis. He's been given less than 6 months to live. He told his sister, who is a town councilman in West Haven, Connecticut, and 100% Democrat, she says, that his dying wish would be to talk to the president. And his sister, the Democrat, put out word on social media, and then it started going viral. And you know what? Guess who that man, Jay Barrett, got a phone call from just yesterday.
How's it going, Jay?
It's going, you know what I mean?
You're a champ. You're gonna fight it, right? You just fighting it?
It's what the Irish do, right?
Yeah, that's what the Irish do. You keep that fight going. We both fight, okay? You keep that going, okay?
I will do my end. Thank you for calling, and
it's an honor.
Wow. Wasn't that wonderful that he did that? He's known for this, just picking up the phone and calling people when he hears that they support him and that they really want to hear from him. It's very nice of the president to do that.
Yeah, the man says he wants to go to D.C., wants to go to a rally, he wants to use the days that he has left to advance and stand behind a guy he thinks is fighting for him.
He says he told the president he wants to vote for him in 2020.
Wow.
God bless him.
Bless his heart. Everyone say a prayer for him.
There he is with his sister, who helped make that all happen. All right, let's bring in Tommy Lahren, host of Fox Nation. Tommy, that's a story that, it gets you.
Well, of course it does, and it's just a reminder that no matter what they say about Donald Trump, he really does have a heart of gold, and in seeing those things, it's really hard to deny that. I'm so proud that he's our president.
Absolutely. Well, I think, Tommy, this morning you may be a bit disappointed because news is, fresh from her own lips, Hillary Clinton not going anywhere, but not running for president. Listen.
I'm not running, but I'm going to keep working and speaking and standing up for what I believe. I want to be sure that people understand I'm going to keep speaking out. I'm not going anywhere.
Well, the president, as you can imagine, he quickly responded with a tweet saying, crooked Hillary Clinton confirms she will not run in 2020, rules out a third bid for the White House. Oh, shucks. Does that mean I won't get to run against her again? She will be sorely missed. Your reaction, Tommy?
Well, first of all, I really don't believe anything that comes out of Hillary's mouth. So she says she's not running, but then again, when it comes to Hillary, who really knows? But, beyond that, I think Trump really is disappointed he doesn't get to run against her. I think that she would be a very easy win for him. But then again, I think that all the Democrats that are lined up will also be a very easy win for him. So, Hillary, we know you're going to stick around. We know you're going to keep talking. And quite honestly, it probably does a service to the Republican Party more so than the Democrats if you do.
Oh, well, it started a Twitter war. Then Hillary Clinton, she sent out a GIF from the movie Mean Girls. Watch this, and then we'll show you a clip from the movie and get your reaction.
She'd be like, "Why didn't you call me back?" And I'd be like, "Why are you so obsessed with me?"
Why are you so obsessed with me? That's the line from the movie. And there's the GIF
really funny that she should say
that she sent out. Go ahead.
Well, it's really funny that she should say that Trump is obsessed with her, given that she can't give a speech without mentioning him, and that goes for all the Democrats. They're actually quite obsessed with Donald Trump. If you think about it, when have they ever been able to do anything or advocate for any policy position that wasn't anti-Trump?
All right. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about this. This is a story that online has gone viral. You know how Forbes magazine always comes out with a list of the richest people in the world? They have named Kylie Jenner at age 21 as ranking with some of the world's richest people, and they say, and this is the part that has got everybody so crazy, if we could put that graphic up once again, that she's a self-made billionaire because, you know, you think about the Kardashian family, they have a lot of money and they got a lot of fame, and people online are going, she's not self-made, Tommy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand the critique there, but this is really deeper than that. People are attacking her. They're attacking her wealth. They're attacking the fact that she's not self-made. And really what this is the continuation of the demonization of wealth. It's something the Democratic Party pushes day in and day out. And Kylie Jenner is just another target of that. It's, if you have more money than me, then somehow you don't deserve it. It should be taken away from you. You're not self-made. It's a continual attack on people with money, people with wealth. And quite honestly, Kylie Jenner and her tax dollars are subsidizing a lot of these people who sit on Twitter all day and talk about her. So at the end of the day, they should be quite thankful.
Yeah, good for her. But I was kind of shocked. Out of all the Kardashians, Tommy, weren't you kind of shocked? I mean, the mother was their manager. Kim Kardashian's so famous. All the sisters are so famous. She's probably the one that's not out there as much, and she's the one that's the billionaire because of her makeup line.
Well, exactly. It just goes to show that, yes, she was given a head start in life because of the way she was brought up and her family, but she's been able to go out and create an empire. That's and right. Kylie Cosmetics is something that's done incredibly well. She's been able to use a passion of hers and make a ton of money doing it, making more money than Kim, making more money than her mom and any of the other Kardashians. So good for her. Maybe she's not self-made, but she's really killing it. And I say keep going, girl.
Yeah, I mean, she sat back and said, okay, I see all what's going on here.
No,
let me find my way, do my own thing, and
more
make my own money.
Than all of them.
Of course.
But you know who gets the last laugh? Kylie Jenner is a billionaire.
Laughing all the way to the bank.
All right.
Good for her.
Thanks, Tommy.
Tommy, thanks a lot.
Check out Tommy on Fox Nation. If you don't already have the app, I know we're all on it as well. Go to foxnation.com. Check out your free subscription.
It's that
first
attitude.
thoughts and final thoughts every day on Fox Nation. Yep.
It just kills me, this attitude of you have so much and now I'm mad at you. I'm jealous of you because you have so much and you've done well and worked hard.
It's a debate
just being
over
happy for someone.
It's a debate over the term self-made. Like she can't help the fact that she was born where she was.
Correct.
you make the best of wherever you are.
She wasn't.
Isn't that better than a lot of these rich kids on the Upper East Side that are spending their parents' money and not working at all and partying?
Yep. That's true. She works hard and doesn't party.
I think
Maybe she party. You party, Jillian?
No, I'm so lame.
You can't on your hours. What time do you wake up?
I wake up at midnight.
Yeah.
I party at like 2 p.m. It's awesome. Okay, let's talk about this. Embattled R&B star R. Kelly explodes during his first interview since being charged with sexual abuse. Watch this.
But just use your common sense. How stupid would it be for me to, with my crazy past and what I've been through, right now I just think I need to be a monster and hold girls against their will. I didn't do this stuff. This is not me. I'm fighting for my life.
R. Kelly is out on bail after pleading not guilty to 10 counts of sexual abuse. Some of his alleged victims were minors. The CBS interview airs this morning. A potentially landmark decision recognizing an aborted fetus as a person. An Alabama judge ruling a would-be father has the legal right to sue the abortion clinic that terminated his girlfriend's pregnancy. He says he wanted to have the baby while the mother did not. It's believed to be the first case of its kind in the country. Take a look at this. A huge slab of plywood smashes right through a driver's windshield. Christopher Matheson says he is lucky to be alive.
I think I have a little pinprick in the middle of my forehead. I think I got really lucky. I think I was really lucky that nobody hit their brakes in front of me and nobody kind of plowed into me from behind.
Yeah, look at that. The plywood stopping just a few inches from his face after it flew off a truck in Seattle. He walked away with scratches and splinters. Look at that damage. Okay, we all know police bust bad guys, right? But watch as one officer busts a move. That's Officer Floyd Truss getting down with a woman in South Carolina. The Georgetown Police Department says he often helps out with an exercise program for the elderly.
Isn't that cute? Gotta love it. Janice has moves like that, but hers are like better.
But see, they were inside, and Janice is outside on the streets of New York City, where it's cold again today.
Do it to keep warm.
Yeah, there you go.
I
Moves
love
like
a man in
Janice.
uniform and a man in uniform that dances. I mean,
You
bonus.
married a man.
I did. He
Does
doesn't
he dance for you?
No, he does not. No,
Sean,
but that's
come
okay.
on.
I'll forgive him. You know what? It is so cold out here. It is cold in New York. It is cold down south. Let's take a look at it. We actually have freeze warnings in effect for parts of the Gulf Coast, where it is 33 in Houston, 29 in Dallas. There are your freeze warnings from Texas all the way to the Panhandle up towards the Carolinas. That means a period of time of below freezing temperatures. New York City, here we are. Today is your 28-degree high, but then things will start to bump up as we get through the next few days. The West Coast, more heavy rain and mountain snow for you, unfortunately. Great for the skiers. Hi, how you doing? Thanks for coming out. And that will continue to move in towards the central U.S. over the next couple of days. The rest of the country, by the way, mostly sunny. Get it? Hello?
We do.
We got it. We got it. That's the
Yes.
name of Janice's book.
Came out yesterday. Check it out. It's fantastic.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Congratulations.
Mostly sunny.
Yay.
There it is right there. You can get it
Sunny.
right now at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, everywhere.
Very cool.
All right. Coming up.
And it was sunny yesterday for her. I was walking with Hayden on the sidewalk. I was like, God, you were so good. It's sunny, and her book, Mostly Sunny, came out.
I thought it was mostly sunny. It's no longer
Right on. Completely sunny.
It's never going to be partly
Completely
cloudy.
right.
It's always going to be mostly sunny.
As it should be.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Glass
should
half
be.
full.
All right. Come
All
on.
right. AOC denying allegations of missing campaign cash. But how much trouble could she be facing? We're breaking down the case against her coming up next.
Plus, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders is going to join us. We're going to talk about the news of the day. Geraldo Rivera and Congressman Lee Zeldin from New York. A busy 3 hours, and we're going to be back in 2 minutes. Back against allegations of funneling campaign donations to avoid reporting them to the federal government.
There is no violation, so there's no violation.
Do you think that's a sign of you taking dark money?
Oh, no. I'm 100% legal. Thank you.
Okay, so what kind of trouble could she face, and her chief of staff as well? Attorney Mark Fitzgibbons is an expert in fundraising law and policy. He joins us now to break it all down. Mark, morning to you.
Good morning, Steve.
Okay, so the headline yesterday was that AOC's chief of staff ran a $1 million slush fund by diverting campaign cash to a couple of companies that he controlled. That's the story as we understand it. Is that the problem?
That's part of the problem, and let me also start out by saying it's no irony that Ms. Ocasio-Cortez role-played the bad guy in hearings last month about regulating campaign finance even more. The issue is there were political action committees, tax-exempt political action committees, and for-profit companies that Mr. Chakrabarty ran. And it appears to be there was a shell game of money going back and forth. 1 week, the for-profit company had all of the employees and was providing all of the services. The next week, it was the Political Action Committee. So the Political Action Committee also had the same name as the for-profit company, and that seems like it was designed to create confusion. But it's money going back and forth, plus potentially the big problem for Chakrabarty is the coordination issue, because he was the agent for both her campaign committee and other PACs that were involved in this transfer of money.
Now, he worked on the Bernie Sanders campaign. I mean, he's a guy who's been around the block, has made millions of dollars in the online world and whatnot. You would think he would know the rules. But generally, stuff like this just results in a fine, although yesterday they were talking about a potential of jail time.
Yeah, the fine will probably apply to the shell game of the money, and Mr. Chakrabarty does know campaign finance law. He wrote about it extensively on the website's page, and he identifies what he was doing. Right. And it does look like a shell game, but the issue again is the potential criminality of this coordination, since he was agent for her campaign and these other PACs.
Well, and the hypocrisy, because she was, when she was running, she was all about transparency. And then when you pull the curtain back and you see, oh, wait a minute, your words, it looks like a shell game was going on here. There's not the kind of transparency people were thinking they were getting.
She's a socialist crusader. She doesn't know the rules. She wants to make life difficult for everybody else, but it's very apparent she does not know the rules because it looks like she violated them and her campaign violated them.
Well, let's see what happens. All right, Mark Fitzgibbons, we thank you very much for joining us today from D.C., explaining what happened. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. 10 minutes now before the top of the hour. It was supposed to be a relaxing getaway, and then, look at the screen, this happened.
I can't say I've been on a lot of cruises. This has never happened.
Okay, stop the boat. I want to get off. The nightmare at sea coming up. And did you know there are certain things that your doctor can't tell you? Dr. Nicole Saphier is here on how dangerous that could be. And she, as you can see, is coming up next.
Well, you might have noticed the discussions with your doctor, now limited, making way for electronic health records known as EHRs, to record things like diagnosis and treatment data. Unfortunately, it could be putting you at risk.
Look at that headline right there, what your doctor isn't telling you. A Massachusetts cardiologist exposes the dangers associated with these electronic health records in a new op-ed, writing, quote, to protect patients, doctors need the same uncensored academic freedom with regard to EHRs that we have for medical devices, pharmaceuticals, and other tools we use. The safety of our patients depends on it.
Radiologist and Fox News medical contributor Dr. Nicole Saphier here to explain. I need you to explain this for me. So, electronic health records, what's the controversy all about?
Well, electronic health records were implemented under the HITECH Act with the Affordable Care Act. So it is supposed to be electronic data keeping for patient care, but it also...
It sounds great.
It sounds great, but it goes beyond that. It's actually data collecting. And so you're finding physicians, you see them clicking all the time and they're not even looking at you anymore. That's because they have to do about 30 clicks during that visit.
So it's a headache.
Oh, it's beyond a headache. But now what we're seeing is that we're having some more problems with it. One, you have less face time with your doctor, but they're showing, several studies came out in 2018 showing somewhere around 550 patient errors may have been due to the input of EHRs. The problem is there are gag clauses in these contracts, which are legal.
Yeah.
When you, especially with software intelligence, you can have gag clauses where if there's a problem with the technology, you're not able to report it. But the problem is when we're talking about patient care.
Yeah.
So those are the problems. So what can patients do about it?
Well, you know, President Trump actually is kind of taking this on his own right now. He has proposed a new rule, which is going to make these electronic health records actually be patient data. So those with Medicare, Medicaid, and hopefully the VA at some point, they will have access to their own records and they can keep tabs on things. The most common error that they showed in those studies was possibly patient dosing errors, medication errors, especially in children. So when it comes to people to stay on top of things, talk to your doctor, talk to your pharmacist, make sure you're taking what's been prescribed and it's the right dose amount.
So you may not be, you're not the medical, well, meaning you are the medical expert, but the patient is not the medical expert.
No.
But even being able to see your own records, you're going to maybe recognize something that isn't just right.
Well, possibly. Look, the government is ill-suited to steer technology, and that's what happened with the EHR, with the ACA. So we need to, although we want the government to step in to make sure everyone has access to this, we need to take away some of the governmental influence to make these private companies, they need to make this technology better. We can't be having these errors, and as long as they are protected by these gag clauses and still receiving taxpayer subsidies for their product, what's the incentive to get better?
Great point. All right. Nobody would know better than you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay, answer this. Is Jesus our Lord and Savior or a killer? I know the answer. The new comic book, though, sparking outrage this morning.
Plus, coming up.
A controversial comic book.
Going to join us. We're going to talk about the news of the day.
Jesus
Geraldo Rivera and Congressman Lee Zeldin from New York. A busy 3 hours, and we're going to be back in 2 minutes.
Heroic fiction featuring a certain young Nazarene carpenter who is having some trouble finding his place within a world of ever-increasing violence. The 60-page hardcover series, which shows Jesus beheading his enemies, will be released during Lent. Today is Ash Wednesday, and here to react is CBN Chief Political Correspondent David Brody. Hey, David, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Ainsley. Always a pleasure.
So what is this all about? Tell us what Jesus Freak is.
Yeah, it's one of these crazy comic books. Unfortunately, it's a situation where kids are going to read this, and that's the disturbing part. Look, apparently Jesus, according to this comic book, has some issues, and so decides to take it out in a violent way with his sword. Look, here's the deal. Jesus is a superhero, not this superhero. He's a superhero that's all powerful.
Plus, coming up,
and who saves. And Ainsley, the good news here.